time for a very exciting part of this session, a panel discussion on wellness and well-being, workplace culture, and creating a true transformational experience through learning. Now I'll invite the panel onto the stage. Please give a big round of applause to all the panel members as I invite them on. Our first panel speaker is Mohammed Ashraf, the head of people development at the Bank of Maldives. Mohammed Ashraf. All right, and the next panel speaker is Yusuf Hasnain, the learning and development manager at Treetop Hospital. And our next panel speaker, Aminat Irasha, the manager of learning and development at HDC. Irasha. And our panel moderator for today will be Mohammed Ahmad, the managing director of Bold Point Private Limited, a trainer and consultant. Please welcome him on stage. Now I'll hand over to the panel for the discussion.
Actually, there was a little, I think, confusion in introducing the panel. The topic of our discussion is actually going to be creating a learning culture to achieve organizational transformation and cultural transformation. Throughout the day, we have been talking about cultural transformation in the organizations. So our discussion is about the learning culture and how to achieve that. I will start with Ashraf, if that is okay, Ashraf, with you. When we talk about learning and culture of learning, there is a difference between the traditional learning and development or training and development function and the organizational learning. Organizations, of course, don't learn, people learn. So Ashraf, can you explain how, the difference between learning and development traditionally and learning as a culture, please?
Thank you, Ahmad. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you are doing well. I think a very good point you pointed out is traditional learning and training and development and the learning culture. I'll take you back to about 20 years back when I started my career. I started as a single person in a training unit. The name itself was training unit. So some of my colleagues are in the crowd at that time. They will understand what I'm trying to say here. So training is, those days, it was in the aviation industry and there's a lot of trainings happening. So people doesn't have any choice, they have to attend the training. So we don't know whether it is having any impact to the productivity or any impact to their personal growth. Training means they have to come to the classroom and do the training, specifically those skills trainings as well. The learning culture itself it has transformed a long way after 25 years. Today people are looking forward for learning opportunities. Look at this crowd. I mean, how many of you are here to learn something today? Yay. See, this is what the learning culture says all about. The learning culture, creating a learning culture creates morale. It helps people to develop themselves within the organizational and at a personal level. And of course, please don't mistake and confuse that we cannot replace the training with the learning culture. Training has to happen because training needs to be given to the specific skills, to the specific things that we need to work and get results into. Thank you, Ahmad.
Thank you, Ashraf. I think it is very important to understand that, as we have been reiterating from the very beginning, in the introductory note also, Afif mentioned, learning starts with us. Transformation starts with us as well. So there is a lot of focus on the individual when it comes to the learning culture, I think, because learning happens with ourselves. Irasha, to what extent, I mean, this is actually an evidence that there is a lot of learning happening here, but to what extent do you think the learning culture is, practiced in the Maldives and our organizations?
Thank you so much, and it's really a pleasure to be here. Look at us, like Ashraf has mentioned, we are all here to learn something, not that because we just want some CPD programs or points. So I can see that now we have moved from the traditional concept of training to something of learning. And in organizations, I can see that now it's a continuous professional development, or the CPDs we are trying to adapt in our environment. I can see that maybe when I just joined the industry as a teacher educator, we were just given chances to training and learn, and we do something called peer teaching we started with. And now that we are here today, now every school, all the teachers, they are doing at least 6 hours of training and learning besides the things that they do every week. So we can see that now we are adding more value to it by making it a practice rather than trying to keep it as just attending some training. So I can see that almost all the organizations are adapting to these skills, and we are trying to add value ourselves and train, develop ourselves in it.
Thank you very much. Yusuf, I'll go with you for the next question. When it comes to the learning organization, I think it emphasizes that learning is beyond the training and development function or the learning and development function. Even also it goes beyond the HR function even. So can you please explain in your experience the role of the senior management and the leaders in the organizations who do not have an HR role as such in terms of cultivating a learning culture in the organization?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. Great to be here today. So as a question, I want to ask you a question from the audience. So in your organization, are you consider learning function is important function? Yes. So next question is, do you believe the organizations spend or they allocate a great amount from the budget for the learning function? Yeah. Yes or no? Yeah. So I can see some of you agree, some of you just not agree. Okay. The next question is, even though we put a lot of effort on, or we put a lot of investment on learning, what is the buy-in by the management or top executive of an organization? For example, I actually work in hospitality industry last 10 years. So recently I moved to Treat Hospital. So what I learned over the last 10 years was there are certain organizations, they have a program, for example, you can say management development programs. Those programs, for example, the supervisors, in order to promote, they need to do 12 modules over the 6 months. For these kind of programs, the instructor, the trainer is from the management or general manager or CEO, or could be a director of finance. So the impact is those organizations are stand out from others. So if we want to learn from them, the idea is even the email to nominate people come from those managers. So you can see from there, they are creating a learning culture. So if we could apply this to the organization we have, which including public sector, private sector. So this is how important. So you can see sometimes we see in HR function, let's say, sometimes I got from, let's say, housekeeping manager come to me and say, in my department we have a grooming issue. Can you do a training? But I think we need to understand that the manager have a role. So not everybody is a trainer, but everybody can be an influencer.
Thank you. That's very insightful. I think when we talk about the culture of learning, and like Yusuf mentioned here, when the senior management, and also Ahmad referred in his presentation as well, it is very important that the senior management not only talks, but they also apply, not only allocate in the budget, but also they display in their own behavior and their approach of management, that they are willing to learn. A lot of organizations, organize management development programs, but if the SMT is exempted from that, learning and management development program, it often doesn't actually result in the change we want. Ashraf, the next question, in many organizations, in trying to cultivate this culture of learning, they are now using the learning management system. I believe in the Bank of Maldives you have been using the learning management system. Can you please explain to the audience how it works and the benefits, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ahmad. Yes, we've been very lucky and blessed that we were able to implement our learning management system just before the pandemic hit us. We launched our learning management system on Valentine's Day 2020.
In love with learning. Huh?
Good day.
We gave a present to all our employees on the Valentine's Day. So we sent out an SMS saying that it's a Valentine's Day gift. I mean, some of you might have seen it on social media as a negative thing, but we are proud that we did it. Anyway, the system itself, it's BML e-learning week, and it's run on. Ali, everything okay? Okay, right. Our BML e-learning lab is run on Litmos. SAP Litmos. SAP Litmos is one of the top 10 learning management systems in the world. So we've seen a huge difference. I mean, we were able to drive the learning through the pandemic. It's amazing how our people loves the system because it's everything is there, from the mandatory trainings to leadership development training, mental health awareness, Microsoft Office, everything is loaded on our platform. So people are looking forward. If I compare the numbers, we were like 5,000 prior to the LMS. It hit to 19,000 trainings that our people completed. We are like 1,000 employee organization, and it hit like 3 times, more than 3, almost 4 times. This is except the mandatory trainings, and which has helped us along the way. And we are very proud, I think, one of the first organizations, local organizations, to implement an LMS, and we have the end-to-end solution on the of an LMS. We have our trained people who can develop and create content within the bank, and they are all creating the content that is required. Specific bank required trainings are being conducted in-house, and those colleagues are here. Thank you, guys. All right, so we're very proud to have the system, and anybody wants more information, I don't have time, so you can come later.
Very good, thank you. I think that's very useful, that experience, I think. And also true learning happens when those content is being developed within the organization, because it actually means that the learning has happened within the organization and it is also being shared. I think in terms of learning management systems, one of the brilliant things about it is it gives a lot of control to the learner, to the end user, because they can decide when, where, and what to learn as well. And that's when the true learning happens, because they are choosing what to learn, and that's very important. Irasha, in HDC, can you explain what you are doing to try and cultivate the learning culture, please?
Thank you so much. At HTC, we have launched a program called Knowledge Hub, where we have different components included in it. I would like to specifically highlight few among them. One being our experience sharing platform. So this is when we have, let's say, over the time when we do different projects, we learn and we grow from our mistakes or things. So we come together and reflect on those things and give a chance to see what are the things that we can look forward for our next projects. So we have this platform for experience sharing platform. And we also do have a Skill Pro, which is we are given the chance to our in-house talent to facilitate, conduct training sessions to our staff. So in this, we are also compensating them with monetary benefit to them. So I can see already when we launched last year, till date, we have more than 20 employees who have already shown interest. And out of that, we have seen that a lot of people are interested, a lot of our employees are interested to come forward and share their knowledge with other colleagues. So this has been a very successful thing we started with the Skill Pros. And also we do have the knowledge sharing platform. That's something I would like to highlight here. In knowledge sharing, our partners, what we do is once they attend international conferences or other different trainings or learning experience you get from here, we gather together and we share this information among other colleagues who could not join here. So in that way, we are trying to keep this knowledge shared within our team. So with us today, we have 5 members from HTC here, and I'm sure that they're going to go back and share their learning experience to the team, and it is going to grow with that. So that is something we do at HTC.
Very good. Can we see the team from HDC, please? Very good. So they are going to share their learning with the team, and I think that's a brilliant practice that the other organizations can also, try and implement. whenever, and this is a practice I have also seen, that have been practiced in many organizations. When one of your team members attends to a conference, to any, go through any learning experience, they can share what they have learned with the rest of the team, so that, that benefit is shared with the organization as well. Yusuf, we've been talking about a lot of change. I mean, the pandemic was nothing we were expecting. And the organizations have changed as a result as well. So what do you think organizations should be doing to adapt with this change, when they are trying to implement this learning culture?
Thank you. So I think I can go back to the what Ashraf said, and also what Irasha said. One of the most important thing is you can see the target audience. A lot of new employees are very young generation. So we need to look into infuse both instructor-led training plus the online modules. So I think many organizations, you can see in traditional way, we have classroom. So we call them, we nominate them, we ask them to come to the training. So we need to think that it might not work at the moment at the level we were for 15, 20 years ago. So it should be infusion. For example, the orientation training program or onboarding is a very important part. So many organizations have orientation for 2, 3 full day in the classroom. So that might not work at the moment. We need to look into what are the things, for example, pre-onboarding. So as Dr. Jacqueline mentioned about the employee experience start even before they join the company. So this is where we need to start the learning experience. So we could have, for example, some organizations have pre-employment lab that they input a lot of information that they could read, they could train before even they start the first day. So I think to evolving, all the L&D professional, HR professional can look into that. This is an important thing. Thank you.
I think, thank you. I think, again, a very useful insight there as well. I've seen in my personal experience, some organizations actually give an opportunity for their to-be employees to work with the team for some time, so that they can actually decide, make an informed decision about whether they want to join this particular team, the culture. Very often as employers, we make a choice about hiring somebody or not, but too often we don't give that opportunity to the employee to make that decision whether they want to actually join, this organization. And I think, what Yusuf mentioned there is very useful in achieving that. So thank you. Ashraf, very often when we talk about the learning culture and implementing it, we talk about the benefits to the organization. And we too often, I think, forget about the employees, the team. So what benefits do you think the team at BML has, achieved or, realized in implementing, this culture of learning within the organization?
I think this is a big question. Excuse me if I go beyond time, but before I answer the question, let me ask a question to the audience. Before you answer my question, how many of you are here because you wanted to be here? I can see almost all the hands are here. The learning culture has evolved. You can see from the audience that, and I'm sure that each and every one of you will go back to your organization and give the feedback to your organizations and try to implement at least one concept, theory, or practice that you have learned from here. So this is the benefits of learning culture. Same happens at the BML as well. We have been, I can kind of say that we are pioneers of e-learning in the country. We started our e-learning before we got a system. We did it through telephone. We connected all our branches across the country. This was back in 2016, December. We try to do it through something called WebEx. I'm sure most of you are aware of WebEx. At that time, WebEx, when we do a 10 connection, it starts to create a bottleneck and we cannot do it. So we started sharing the slides on WebEx and use a conference call. there was a limitation from our service provider that at any time only 20 connections can be connected, and we had 38 branches that we need to connect. So Ahmad, my mentor, he spoke to his previous employer, of course, Diragu, and we extended that number from 20 to 50 connections. That is where we started. So we can say from 2016, we have continuously doing training every week. So that and up until today, it created a learning culture that today, it's not awkward that when we face one another colleague to say that, oh, you are, who are you? But they're familiar. I mean, that's where I learn. And they're not awkward to ask a question. They're not awkward to share what they have learned from a branch in Arduino. They share the knowledge to the North branches, and they work very well. The learning culture has evolved, and I think this has helped us as an organization. Of course, there are a lot of things to be considered, and I personally believe that future is created by the past, that learnings from the past. And of course, I'm going to take it to the Ahmad's topic, the agility. We need to think beyond. What has happened before might not happen now. So we need to think. We need to change our values. We need to change our practices. We need to change our mentalities and values so that we move forward and create the better learning, because at the end of the day, we are all working to bring an experience, a good experience to our customers, and have, of course, the successful to our businesses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Irasha, in HDC, have you noticed any changes in employee behavior after you have implemented this, learning within the organization?
Yeah. For one thing, I'm sure that now every now and then they ask you, when is my turn next? When can I go and book myself? So this is how the enthusiasm of our team within. Well, I can also see that it's not awkward for them to come and ask for training anymore. It's not something that it's like a preventive measure now. It's proactively, they know that they're upskilling themselves. It's not that they have to do a training to be in the job. They're upskilling themselves every now and then and learning new skills. So very much enthusiasm, and also very much proactive learning happens now.
Okay, very good. I think again, when Ashraf asked who was here, by their own will, we saw almost everybody was here, so it's a choice we make. And I think a lot of us have learned that, when we learn, it's about our employability, that is ensured. So it's not only about the organization, but about our future and career as well. Yusuf, from your experience, can you give us one practical tip that the audience, the members of the audience can go and apply in their organizations to try and implement the learning culture?
Thank you, Ahmad. So I have one question before I start this conversation from all of you. So how many of you be attending the trainings in your organization? Raise your hand if you're attending the training or last year or could be this month. What is the reason you are going? Whether your manager or HR nominate you for the self-development. Okay, great. So I'll start. One of the tip I can give you is when the HR or L&D create a training program, you can see there are many organizations, organizations already have training programs. For example, the corporate office already sent training programs, so already you have training programs. One of the most important thing is you need to be update this. Don't keep this training program forever, because you can see you need to think about who are coming to the training and which year, for example, the things happening pre-pandemic is not happening anymore. There are a lot of changes. So one of the things is the organization look into how to create a culture, the learning culture or the service mindset. So I have a great example from my previous company. So this example started like this. One of our guests met this guest service agent at the reception, and the guest mentioned, my son loved to collect coins. Love to collect coin. So the front office agent immediately talked to few others, because even now we are not using coins, right? So we don't have Maldivian coins even in the resort. So they found a few coins and gave to the guest instantly. And the story becomes better, because during the checkout, the same employee gave them a card of coins. What happened is that employee contacted someone in Male and bought this for the guest. So what you can see is you cannot train people on this. You cannot pay people on to do this kind of thing. It is all about creating a learning culture. Because there are three things which we can learn. The lesson learned from this example is, number one is the employee is empowered to do this. This only comes through service mindset. Second thing is, the employee knew it. Somebody from the organization will recognize it. Number two. Number three is they educate them to have a self-satisfaction. So if these three things involve, that learning culture can create. So the lesson learned from this example is we need to create a service mindset in order to create wow experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How many of you think you have a culture in your organization where people are actually encouraged and empowered to learn? Can I see your hands? Thank you. That's very encouraging. That's very encouraging. In fact, I think in the story and the example, one of the most important thing is that there is recognition when employees learn, and also there is a culture where people are encouraged to learn as well. Ashraf, last question for you. Evolution has to happen in learning as well. So where do you think this culture of learning is going, and what practices do you think is going to come in the future?
We can, I think Yusuf asked a question to the audience regarding the training budget. We can spend X amount of money to our employees on training, but unless or otherwise they feel the need that they need to make a change to the experience that they give to the customer, no amount of money can make it a success. So the point here, the future is here, you see? All of them are here to learn. I think if we talk about even 5-10 years back, if you are conducting a convention or a conference like this, this whole half of the hall would be empty. But today we see the learning, the yearning for learning, the hunger for learning, so which helps the organizations. And we are seeing a lot of changes across many organizations, and there's a lot of time invested into the training, training and development, learning, but future depends on individual people who wants to make that change. Of course, the technology has evolved, and there is a fantastic learning management systems. There is AR, VR, AI, so many things are coming into the in fact, when I see you, I remember about Sophia the robot. See, so a lot of things are happening, but future depends on each and every one of you, because if we, at the end of the day, you are the person who makes that difference.
Very good, thank you. I think when it comes to learning in the future and learning organizations, one of the key considerations we have to make in our recruitment in going future is people's capability to learn. One of the key determinants of who actually gets the job has to be based on the learning capability of individuals, and also how we emphasize the importance of learning throughout the journey the employee has. And in the presentation we had just after the break, employee experience and the customer experience, and that can only be transformed through learning as well. Irasha, any final comments and thoughts on learning culture?
Yeah, I would like to highlight the importance of fostering the learning culture among us, so that we set an example to our colleagues and subordinates working with us. Along with that, I can see that people who are actively learning, they're also now creating this mindset among other colleagues. Now we can see that, for example, the virtual learning is something very familiar to us. At the very beginning, we were very reluctant. Like Lish mentioned, that we try to keep our videos off and mics mute. And now that we put in faces to these names, it's time to think back. Now still we can have the virtual learning platform and also have the physical face-to-face meetings like this. And always try to take a lesson from any of the gatherings, the people that you meet with. So it is important that we create the learning culture, although it's virtual or face-to-face, harness this change, grow with it, and spread this knowledge among others. So that I would say that always take a chance that if you are given, just look into options, eagerly find those things and make pathways to other people who are working along with you. Very often we can see that support staff or people who are having less opportunities in an organization. This is where we now need to tap in. Now we have to hold their hands and show them the path so that they also have the opportunities to grow. Likewise, we can see that recently many companies among us even, we are also one of them, who have introduced apprentice programs. So things like this, we are creating the learning pathway for them to join if they want a vocational education pathway. They have that option. So they, although they just completed grade 10, some of us are landing with no job or waiting eagerly for seeking jobs. So for this young crowd, I would say that you have the opportunity now. Take chance of these opportunities created to you. If you are doing a certificate level 3, you have the opportunity to go certificate level 4. You can do the maybe advanced diplomas. We can do everything here in Maldives up until to degrees. It's free degrees here. So come in. It doesn't have to always be an academic pathway for you. It can also be a vocational pathway for you. So hold the hands of people who are fortunate enough and those who do not have the options too. And then let's create a learning culture with all our staff, regardless of their title.
Of course, learning has to be across the board. Yusuf, any final thoughts on the culture of learning?
Yeah, I think the forum like this, I would like to share a lot of stories, especially to promoting learning. So one of the most important thing what I thought is human connection is very important, regardless of, we talk about the transformation, is talk about a lot of e-learning. The human connection is very, very important. So in an organization, sometimes we look for the, we call it as learning need analysis, or we do, by end of the year, we have appraisers. From there, we find out, okay, what are the things we need to do. So as HR and training and also learning and development, one of the most important things is you talk to your people and you have a real conversation with them and find out. This is one of the easiest way to find out what are the learning needs in organization, rather than only focus on those things, those forms, those Google forms, or the other things. So I think this is the message I want to give you. Thank you
very much. Aligning, in fact, the needs of the organization and the individuals when it comes to learning and training and development is so imperative. Thank you, the panel members. I would like to open up for a couple of questions from the audience.
Thank you, that was really interesting. And I'm really interested in how you've seen career progression change as your learning cultures have developed here in the Maldives in the last, say 10 years, how you've seen the developing learning culture impact on people's opportunities to fulfill their potential.
Thank you. Any panel members who wants to give it a go?
Well, I'll take it, okay. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to give you a very short answer on that. I'm going to quote one of my favorite quotes by Dr. Martin Luther King. I think it goes like this: if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. No matter what, keep moving. And learning is the only thing that will make you keep moving forward.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's very beautiful as well. I can give you an experience from my personal experience. In my career as a professional, I actually moved from a credit control manager to an HR director. There is, I think that only happened through my choice of learning. Wouldn't have happened, without that learning process, I think. So that's from my personal experience. Any other questions?
Thank you for the amazing and insight answer list. This is good. So my question is, the company is giving learning opportunities for the employees, but sometimes the employees are not utilizing this opportunity. How would we deal with it?
Irasha?
Yeah, I think I'll give it a go for that. At HTC, what we do is while we discuss the training opportunities for them, we plan it way ahead while along with the appraisals. We sit with them. Each individual staff is asked, like, what are the areas that you would like to grow? So they have their own say and they decide what are the things that they would like to improve in themselves. Along with that, some of the observations that we make, we do this, the typical skill gap analysis type of thing. But then a more powerful say comes from the employee, because that's our biggest asset we have. So that is, I think, where we have to start with. First, the willingness to do that is very important. So once we create that type of mindset within ourselves, I think it will, the turnover will be less and more people will be eagerly looking forward for that. And the another thing is, while we are also sharing the training opportunities, I think we should also share the scope of what it will be covered and why the person needs to do that, or what are the things that the people will learn among these training programs. So you are not just going and attending a program, but you are there to learn for a purpose, and you are going to use that for, let's say, at any given time of the life, not only maybe at work, but maybe in personal life.
Thank you. Start with why, as Ahmad said, not what. Anybody else wants to add anything to that?
I would like to add the question asked by Shahina. So in order to get more people into training, so for example, many organizations have new training programs they started, or they want to create a new training program. So one of the most important thing is management buy-in. So some organizations they do is they bring all the managers and first do a brief training about this particular program to the management or the manager, and explain and educate them on why it is important to the team. So we need to explain the why, which is very important, rather than just go and email this training. So I think this could be a factor to be successful, to enroll a successful training program in an organization. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Shaina, you mentioned very often the training opportunity is given, but employees do not take it up. Often that happens when there is misalignment between the individual needs and the organizational needs. So collaboration needs happen. Again, we have heard about collaboration. We've heard about data using, for example, what happened in the last training. If you can show the success stories very often, if we can also link it to the incentive schemes in the organization. So there are a lot of things that organizations can do in order to achieve that. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Yes, so, if there are any other questions. Okay, one more questions we can do.
No, my question is, you have been, like Ahmed also said very well in his presentation, and Rasha also mentioned, that training or learning has to be followed by a why. So my question is now, who decides this why? And going into the future, are we, when we have a learning or a growth mindset culture in the organization, are we going to limit these learning experiences only by the whys decided by the current senior leadership, or the whys can be broader than that?
Thank you. Yes, wonderful question. I think Ahmed already gave you the answer. You remember the pyramid he showed you and said that the bottom part is where it starts. That is the future. I mean, when in a learning culture, why is defined by the individual. The moment we give them autonomy, enough autonomy to make decisions within the organization at their level, to bring in the change to the customers, to give that experience to the customers, that is where the why is created. It doesn't have to be go as a bureaucracy and approvals after approvals after approvals. But in a learning culture, the why is defined by the individual itself. themselves. And they will decide what they need to learn in order to make that difference to the customers. So I don't think in future, yes, with coming so many things, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, all these things are coming, and these are the tools that individuals can gain help to define that why and give that the answer to that why itself themselves, and then create that culture throughout the organization. And anybody want to add anything?
Thanks. My final thought on that is, I think, it's absolutely true. It has to be the individual at the individual level. But as the HR management, as the leadership, our challenge and our role is to make sure again that individual why, the reason why the individual wants to learn is aligned with the organizational need. And once that happens, that's where I think, it blooms, really. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the very engaging experience.